Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Karina Jenkins, and I am the Graduate Program Manager for UMBC's graduate program within the Office of Professional Programs at our Shady Grove campus. I want to welcome you to the UMBC IO Psychology Fall 2020 Open House. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items. Please note that this session will be recorded for quality assurance purposes. In order to provide the best experience for you and all other attendees, please keep your microphone muted throughout the entire session. If questions arise during the presentation, please feel free to utilize the WebEx chat feature to submit your question. We have outlined a Q&A period at the end of the presentation to address your questions. In the event that we are unable to answer your question, either I or Dr. Elliot Lassen will touch base with you directly via email. We hope you enjoy the presentation, and without further ado, I introduce you to our Graduate Program Director, Dr. Elliot Lassen.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is well and safe on this Wednesday evening. As you know, you are here to learn about the Industrial Organizational Psychology program at UMBC. So if you've come for something else, chemistry, biology, history, you're in the wrong Zoom room or WebEx room. I am coming to you from my home office, which has become the new normal as opposed to the old normal. The old normal has our program as very much a high-touch in-person program. And I'll be talking about that this evening to emphasize that we are not traditionally an IO program, an online program. We are doing this out of some sort of duress, so to speak. But in all seriousness, we have pivoted to impart the field of IO psychology as well as the experiential opportunities that we give to our students. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there that hopefully we'll be able to get back to the Shady Grove campus and then I would have the opportunity to see my students, whether they're new students or returning students, to see them in person. So as these things go, the cover slide of any PowerPoint deck is often a throwaway slide, but I would like to just point out a couple of things that hopefully will pique a little bit of your interest. I'm not one for personal accolades and titles. However, I just wanted to share with you, after my name, you'll see PhD, which is going to be obvious, PhD in IO. But you'll also see some other numbers, some other letters that represent credentialing in human resources. And we'll be talking about the interface between those two areas, between IO and HR during the presentation. And finally, I'd like to point out on the cover slide the fact that I'm proud to be joined by 3 IO alumni who will be sharing some of their experience in the program as well as what they do, and hopefully that will be informative. We very much value the contributions and ongoing engagement of our alumni who have really been valuable ambassadors of our program. Finally, before we go to the next slide, I'd like to just point out my colleague, Dr. Alyssa Abad, who usually joins me on these presentations, is teaching a class this evening. So she will not be able to be here she's here in spirit. She won't be here in the remote way. Okay, so let us begin. Karina, if you could advance the slide. And I would like to just give a couple of, I guess, foundational points regarding the field of IO psychology. It's actually a slide that we recently updated because I wanted to be able to communicate a little bit about the field of IO psychology. Many of you probably know about psychology and what that means. And generally speaking, we define psychology as the scientific study of behavior. And as you can see in the middle circle of this sort of solar system type of diagram, it's the scientific study of workplace behavior. So it's not just any behavior that happens, but it's specifically targeting behavior in the workplace. And the workplace today is often where we live, which is a whole other discussion. We live where we work where we live, but traditionally speaking, we've had places where we travel, commute to work, and interface with our colleagues to get jobs done. But the field of IO-psychology, starting from the top circle, is really informed by theoretical and empirical bases. We are a social science, and as social sciences go, we have various theories that we draw upon. And in our coursework that we have, some of our courses are, in fact, foundational and theoretical. So we're not just getting knowledge bases out of thin air or through casual observation. It's actually data driven. But what else? If you take a look at the left-hand circle of this diagram, you'll see that consulting is a big part of IO-psychology, of the field of IO-psychology. As you know, I'm the graduate program director. I teach in the classroom, but over the course of my career, including currently, I'm involved in consulting with organizations, and I've had the opportunity to consult with many different organizations, whether it's for-profit, nonprofit, governmental organizations as well. And that is one aspect of that, consultation, maybe some analysis and recommendations, but also interventions. One of the things that I do is I do workplace crisis intervention. And I feel that it's very meaningful work that I'm working and engaging with people who have been, who have suffered some sort of traumatic event. Moving to the right of the middle circle, talent acquisition and management. Talent acquisition includes areas like recruiting, hiring, staffing, and talent management is how an individual progresses through his or her career within an organization. And how do we promote, how do we develop leaders, for example? So that's what that circle is all about. And finally, the bottom circle, as you can see, is organizational behavior. We sometimes refer to it as OB for short, and development. As organizations grow, perhaps from startup to a more mid-sized organization, there are things that need to happen in the talent, in the people area, in the human capital. As the organization grows, mergers, acquisitions are also the impetus for doing some sort of work in helping the organization grow. Next slide, please. Where do IOs, and when I say IOs, these are people that have that have master's or doctoral degrees in IO, and our program being a terminal master's program, I am thinking about people that have master's degrees in IOs and where they might end up. And I should mention that as far as our students go, some of our students already work in HR or IO and are using our program to get a leg up in their career development. Some of our students will make the transition after they get our degree from something else into IO or HR. But what I've done here on this slide is really just enumerated the sectors that IO psychologists, people with IO backgrounds, might find themselves working professionally in the field. The first, of course, is public sector or government. We have quite a bit of that in our area, which is why I put it first, with especially with Washington, DC, having many public sector organizations related to the federal government, and we'll be actually hearing from one of our alumni about that. Then we have corporate, private sector. Those are for-profit companies. People with IO backgrounds can work as internal consultants, or maybe sometimes even in HR management or training. Consulting. We have graduates who are working for consulting firms, large consulting firms like Deloitte and PwC. We also have graduates who are working for medium-sized consulting firms like DCI Consulting, that is in Washington. We have IO psychologists that work in the nonprofit space. Then we have people that have backgrounds in IO psychology that are working in higher education. Maybe they're working as HR people for a university, or maybe they're doing a little bit of teaching or adjunct teaching, or other organizations I would refer to as research. Some people work for social science research organizations doing analytical work or quantitative projects. So these are, I guess, the 5 main employment sectors where those with IO backgrounds will be able to work professionally and still be called working within our field. Next slide, please. As I mentioned from the outset, based on my background, I have credentialing certification in human resources. So I wanted to just, as my colleague, Dr. Abad put it, IO and HR are really 2 sides of the same coin. And I assume that the alumni on the call would agree, because after all, many people who have IO backgrounds do not have IO psychologist or IO psychology in their job title. They're utilizing their skills, they're leveraging their competencies, but they don't necessarily have the word IO or IO psychologist in their job title. So if you take a look at the left-hand column, these are actual job titles of colleagues and students. You'll see personnel psychologist, that's actually one that the federal government uses. Senior Director of Talent Management, Analytics, and Solutions, okay? Doing, I guess, traditional IO work. Research scientist. And on the right side, you see the column that says human resources, otherwise known as human resource management or human capital management. They used to call it personnel. We don't use that term anymore. But you'll see the job titles, VP of Talent Acquisition. So nowhere you'll see IO psychology, but you will see IO psychologists. Chief Human Resources Officer in organizations, that is a C-level, seat at the table type of position in conjunction with the CEO, the CFO, and that is more of a strategic human capital function within large organizations. So as you can see, there's some level of overlap, and our graduates find themselves in each of these buckets, if you will. Next slide, please. I'd like to share with you, Karina's going to click on a brief video that was produced very nicely by one of our partners. Hopefully you'll be able to see and hear. It's a very brief video.
One of the things that we're very careful about is making sure that our courses align with the needs of the job market, and our advisory board, as well as our faculty, frankly, who serve as our kind of adjunct advisory board, they will ensure that what we're teaching in the classroom is going to position them for their careers. My role as program director is really one of managing the ship, and I have some very outstanding deputies on this ship, primarily our outstanding adjunct faculty who teach in our program because they're really passionate about what they do. And very often the relationships that our students build with a given professor last from one course to another with that same professor, as well as beyond their graduation from the program. Our professors will share job opportunities with them. So really it's a career-long relationship that our students have with our faculty.
Okay, thank you, Karina, for running that. I really just wanted to show you that clip because I wanted to just really accentuate the various stakeholders that we have in this endeavor. Of course, the students represent the primary stakeholder with whom we're trying to inform and impart knowledge and wisdom and develop competencies. But very much, we very much value our faculty, who I would say, the way I put it, they're working up until 5 o'clock in their jobs, and they're bringing some of their what they've done from 8 to 5, 9 to 5 into the classroom starting at 6 o'clock, which is when many of our classes start in the evening. Really, it's an outstanding faculty, and you saw a couple of them in the video clip. Okay, so once again, this is really just a snapshot of our faculty, really focusing on them. If you could advance, please. Okay, a little bit about our program, and this is sort of a high-level explanation without really getting into the weeds on this. If someone were to ask me, like, what would characterize your program at UMBC, or your IO Psychology Master's program? And I would say that it is an applied program. There are other programs such as Masters of Arts programs that are maybe a little bit more research-based, but our program is really focused on putting out IO psychology professionals to be working in the sectors that we saw in the slide before. Occasionally we'll have individuals who will move on for a PhD, but that's certainly that's more the outlier than the norm. As I mentioned, our classes generally begin at 6 or at 7 p.m. And they meet once a week. So if a student has a course load of 2 courses a semester, they're devoting 2 evenings a week to class time. And in the old normal, we have our Shady Grove campus where parking is pretty accessible to our building, pretty close. And all you really need to do is weather the commute from wherever you are in the Washington area or Baltimore area. We actually have students that come is from north of Baltimore and south of Washington to our Shady Grove campus. But of course now it's just a matter of joining the WebEx link or the Blackboard space. So that's kind of our schedule. We consider a normal course load 2 courses or 6 credits a semester, 2 evenings a week. Our courses are divided into categories of what we call core and specialty courses. Core courses are a bit more foundational, maybe a little bit more theoretical. Our specialty courses really are our electives. And we have a variety of electives, really an outstanding variety of electives that are more than most programs offer for individuals that want to go into consulting, or people want to specialize in HR management or administration. We have added courses to our curriculum to be able to meet the career needs of our students. And we're constantly making sure that our offerings are aligned with industry. And really, part of that, as you can see from the slide, part of that is through our advisory board, and I'll mention the advisory board mentorship program in a minute. But our advisory board really helps us ensure that what we're teaching in the classroom are going to be the competencies and skills that are needed in the workplace. But our advisory board does more than that. They provide experiential opportunities by mentoring our students one-on-one. So our students can self-select individuals on our advisory board, and you can see who our advisory board members are on our website, which will appear, I think, in the last slide. And they give of their time to provide informational interviews to our students. And we've had some really gratifying relationships that have ended up in jobs when our students graduate. So I'm very, very pleased with the advisory board mentorship program. We have a capstone experience, which is at the very last semester of each student's degree at UMBC, and that is an applied consulting project that our students will do under the supervision of a faculty member, and it's done over the course of 1 semester. We also have an optional practicum, which is a semester-long practical experience with an organization under the supervision of a senior HR executive or IO psychologist. Occasionally, our faculty will have projects that they will bring students in on to help them understand the consulting world. And we also maintain relationships with professional organizations such as SIOP, the Personnel Testing Council of Metropolitan Washington, and the Society for Human Resource Management. So we will share information about conferences. Occasionally, there'll be some scholarships available to attend conferences. So we try to keep our students professionally connected to the associations that inform our field. Next slide, please. I mentioned that we have two categories of courses: our core courses, which are more foundational, and we have our specialty or elective courses. So just doing some simple math, our program is 30 credits. Each of our courses is 3 credits. 5 core courses are required, 4 specialty courses or electives, and then the capstone is the last semester consulting project. There's no master's thesis requirement. Our capstone is in lieu of a master's thesis. As mentioned, we're not a research-oriented program, although we do hope that our students will be well-versed in research by the time that they complete our degree. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a very busy slide, and certainly there's no need to memorize it. This slide actually will appear in some of the materials that Karina prepares and distributes. It is a helpful slide for students in terms of their planning, because after the first semester, where all of our students will take Psychology 670 and 672, our IO Psychology survey course and our stats course. After that, the door is wide open for students who would like to take different courses. So there's some variety available in the core courses, which is in that first section, as well as in the specialty courses, from which students will choose 4. We've also tried to be very predictable in the semester that we offer our courses. And you can see in the shaded area to your right, we run courses 3 semesters. Sometimes we've offered, even in a winter semester, 1-month format in January. But for the most part, students can plan their academic regimen over the next 2 to 2.5 years using this chart. You'll see that we offer courses in the fall, we offer courses in the spring, we offer courses in the summer. We try to run at least 2 sections of our core courses per year, sometimes in the same semester, on different nights, but sometimes in different semesters. And in the summer, there are a few options that we offer. The capstone experience is only in the fall and the spring. That has to do with the duration of the semester, which we need a full 16-week semester. But you can see just really a variety of courses, Principles in IO Consulting, which is the first specialty course. We have a course called Total Rewards, which is for people that are interested in HR. That's our compensation and benefits course. Job Analysis, which is a course that I teach in the summer. It's about looking at jobs in depth and developing job descriptions and tests and performance appraisal forms. So you can feel free to check out our website to see the descriptions of each of these courses that are posted there. But this is a very good course planning tool for students to use. And for our alumni on the call, you may even see some new courses that did not exist as part of our program when you were students, which really is a testament to my efforts to make sure that we add courses as necessary, and not just adding courses, but keeping them up to date as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have on this slide, really it's the proof is in the pudding, as they say. What I've done is I've selected a few different alumni here, and I've just given you their name and their job title and where they work. because I think that that is really a testament to where our graduates end up. Some of our graduates may have worked for those organizations prior to graduation, others not, or got the job after they graduated. And really, it's you could take a look at and see that we have students that are working in government, the United States Secret Service, well-known organization. We have NIH, National Institutes of Health, and we'll be hearing from one of our alumni, Barb Blau, this evening. And then we have nonprofit, KIPP Foundation, Nakia, Office of Personnel Management. And then we have an individual by the name of Emily. I call her Emily Bell. That was her name in the program. Now her name is Emily Lenato. And she works in another area of an organization that's not HR or IO. But as we'll see from the slide, I think the next slide, we'll be able to see how she's leveraged her background at UMBC, at Freddie Mac, and what she does. So that's just a representation how some of our students don't necessarily pivot immediately into HR, but they will do things that are very much IO or HR in their organizations, even though that's not part of their job title. They're utilizing the skills and competencies within their jobs. Next slide, please. And in Emily's own words, all of my bosses have been very proud of my educational background, and it naturally incorporates itself into my daily tasks and projects. I design onboarding kits for new hires in my team, and the lead facilitator for a corporate-wide women's resource group, and assist the in departmental training and community service planning in initiatives for our corporate scorecard. Then she goes on to say, while the backbone of my position is performing seasoned loan reviews and assessing risk ratings, I'm very fortunate to pursue and maximize my IO passions. My leadership recognizes these strengths and gladly incorporates them into my role. So she has carved out IO functions within her job title, and invariably that informs the work that she does, and the outcomes benefit from her background at UMBC. So that's a very nice quote from Emily, who works for Freddie Mac. Next slide, please. Okay, we're really right on time here. What I'd like to do is turn the microphone, turn the camera over to our three alumni. I guess we'll use this batting order. I know Barb is on the call. I think I saw Tui. Hopefully Candace is on the call as well. Candace, are you there? Out there in the audience?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you. Okay, I only have a limited number of squares here. So welcome, Candace. And why don't we start with Barb? If you could just tell us a little bit about your experience at UMBC, your job, whatever you'd like to say.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Lassen. I'm Barb Blau. I work at the National Institutes of Health. I'm in the Office of Human Resources, and I'm a consultant for workforce planning and analytics projects. So in my role, I do in-house consulting. So I work for NIH and provide it as a service to the institutes and centers across NIH. So any help they may need with different workforce planning projects. For example, you may have seen this in one of the course listings. Job analysis is something that I use quite often, looking at different competencies and behaviors that are needed to perform a specific role. It's definitely a big part of workforce planning and some of the different things that we do. In addition, strategic planning, really thinking strategically about the workforce that we need. What are some of those traits and knowledge, skills, and abilities? And, strategically, where are we going and what do we need to get there? So that is just a little bit about my role. Certainly, as Dr. Lassen was saying, they have added a lot of great courses since I attended in 2016. I saw a few courses on there that I was thinking, gosh, I could go back and take that. That looks really interesting. So there's a good variety of courses. When I started the program, I learned about it through this open house. I attended this open house, a little bit different then, because it was in person, but I got to hear about the different courses. And then I applied and went through the program from there. I would say, as far as, what kind of coursework was interesting to me, I would say the only downside I found with the program was that I couldn't take all of the courses that were interesting, and now you have even more choices than I did. So I tried a little bit of everything just to get an idea. I think we sometimes talk about IO as like O-centered courses or more organizational courses, and then more on the I side, the more industrial types of courses. So some of the ones that I use on a daily basis that I learned from the program include survey design and development. I'm constantly making surveys or validating surveys for the workforce to understand, how engaged is our workforce? What are some of the needs that we have? Different topics like that. So survey was a big one. The statistics course I found extremely useful. I wouldn't have known at the time how much I would have used that. Strategic planning, of course, and job analysis. So it's definitely, courses that I use on a daily basis and am able to really apply to my job and act as an expert in. And then I think there was a lot that I got from the program besides just the coursework and the knowledge from the courses. And even in this, area, I think that Dr. Lassen and all of the other professors have worked really hard to add things since I've done this in 2016. There wasn't an advisory board mentoring program then, so they've worked really hard to really add resources and skills and things like that for the students. But even at the time when I did it, I got a really fantastic internship from one of the professors where I did methods of assessment and survey design, and I learned a ton about, how do you make a good survey? How do you validate surveys? When can you use them? When shouldn't you use them? So I use that all the time. There are a lot of the other coursework had us working directly with different companies or organizations. So I worked on a job analysis for Montgomery County Fire Department, and that job analysis has been still incredibly useful in my job analyses that I do now. So definitely lots of great connections. I actually got my job at NIH through the program, through someone who was had an opening in a position, and so from there kind of moved around through NIH, and I'm still here. So there's definitely plenty to get besides just the academic knowledge, as in the way of networking, job announcements that come out and will be shared with folks, and just other experiences like internships and things like that. So that's a little bit about sort of where I come from and what I got from the program. So thank you.
Thank you, Barb. As you mentioned that job analysis project with the Montgomery County Fire Department, I think back on that project. I think I still have it somewhere in my office with all of the fold-out pages of that spreadsheet. It was sort of a memorable project, and I always think back fondly and how much a consultant would actually be able to charge for such a project if they were if they were a for-profit consulting company, and you really did a service to the Montgomery County Fire Department. Secondly, I'd just like to add that that Barb has been involved over the past couple of years as a peer mentor for our capstone students, in addition to facilitating capstone projects, and it's really a great relationship that we have with our alumni. We very much like to stay in touch with our alumni, and that's how we're able to reach out and get them to participate in this event here this evening. So thank you, Barb. Candace, if you could tell us a little bit about your experience in the program and what you do as an HR business partner.
Absolutely. So good evening, everybody. My name is Candace Brown. I've been with DIA for 10 years now. Oh, that's crazy. Time flies. So when I started the program, I was already working at DIA, still working in OHR. The time that I joined the program, I was working in HR strategy, as well as strategic workforce planning. So we was working with organizations to identify mission critical or critical jobs that they would want to fill in hopes of planning for succession planning. And then I was also working with the HR strategy in terms of coming up with HR strategy to actually meet the mission requirements, as well as identifying performance measures and instituting KPIs. Um, when I joined the program, I was really looking for an opportunity to grow my career at DIA to make me one more marketable and competitive against my peers. Um, I learned about the program actually through a friend who is a UMBC alumni, and she knew that I had an interest in IO psychology, and she said, "Hey, my school actually has a master's program that you should check out." So I went to the open house. I probably saw Barb at the same open house because we were part of the same cohort. And I fell in love with the opportunity. Some of the courses that were offered at the time really resonated with me because I was actually doing it. So I was just looking to better prepare my toolkit and make me more dangerous in the workplace. What I did not imagine is the amount of experience that I got through the program. As Dr. Lassen has mentioned, it is an applied program. So a lot of our projects, they were pretty much real life to include our capstone. So I thought that was great because I thought it was just free knowledge, although it's not free, but it was free knowledge at the time that I thought was invaluable. To Barb's point, I definitely looked at the course and thinking, man, I would love to go back to a couple more courses to be heard. The new courses that have been added, I think, are amazing. The courses that I use almost every day is definitely job analysis, strategic planning, I also use methods of assessment, which is ironic. And then I also use a lot of statistics. Um, since the program, I have worked in workforce analytics, where we were doing, implementing a lot of engagement surveys, also doing a lot of data analysis of our workforce. So we're doing a lot of hiring data, attrition data. I'm really trying to provide advanced analytics that helps leadership make strategic decisions and also help them identify some of the trends that might be going on amongst the workforce. And I must say that I love that job just because I was able to really apply um, the basics from this IO program. Currently, I am an HR business partner. So I'm more so consulting. So I'm working with senior leaders, helping them make sure that they're compliant to HR policies, but also allowing them to think outside the box in terms of how they look at hiring for the organization, maybe helping them identify certain skill sets that they should be targeting instead of the traditional uh, basic position descriptions. Also working with them in terms of their data analysis. Um, what you might find in the government is they try to be cutting edge, but we're always just we are our worst enemies. So helping them to really be data driven in terms of their decisions, especially when it affects the personnel. So that's kind of my role now, where I'm serving as a consultant to make sure the senior leaders have what they need as well as being compliant. Um, a few takeaways as far as the program that I wish I actually did a little bit more just because I'm an introvert by nature. I didn't do it as much, but networking. I definitely met a lot of great peers through the program and also the professors. Some of the professors I'm still in contact with. Um, but I just wish I did more networking just to further that. To Barb's point earlier, we are still definitely in contact with Dr. Lassen, sharing new jobs that might come across, helping out students who are going through their capstone, whether it's just moral support or helping them think through some of their projects. Um, I would say that when you join the program, the cohort that you normally come in with, those are pretty much going to be your battle buddies to the end. Um, and I just say, if you are interested, come with an open mind, but also hit the road running. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. I think that as Candace was talking, I was just thinking about how she works as an HR business partner. And if you're unfamiliar with what that job title really does, it's an internal consultant. It's a subject matter expert that helps people in the organization solve problems, solve staffing problems, solve employee engagement problems, whatever the specific role might be. But even though she doesn't have consultants or she doesn't work for a consulting firm, You can't see that from her job title or organization. She's very much working as an internal consultant. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. So thank you, Candace, and thank you for helping our students out in their capstone. Tui.
Hello. So my name is Tui Tran. I work at Arlington County, so local government, and my job is a selection assessment analyst. So the main crux of what I do is basically just work with the public service agencies, so fire, sheriff, and police, mainly in their promotion. So whenever there's a promotion coming up, a slot opening for fire captain or police captain, they come to us and we build them an entire assessments in order to test their candidates to see whether or not their candidates have the necessary, knowledge, skills, abilities, experience, and whatnot. A little bit more information on that because it's kind of unique is that we go around and we kind of film scenarios, so sometimes we'll block off an intersection in Arlington with a bunch of cop cars and then bring a fire engine through and film it, all dressed up as a burnt body and lay on the ground. And we'll have a camera person come through, film the scene, add in whatever special effects they need. And what happens on the candidate side is they come in on test day, they watch the video and they're asked, hey, how do you respond to this? What are your next steps and so on. So in order to do that, the courses that I've taken at UMBC that really helped to prepare me would be, job analysis. I think all three of us have mentioned that as something in common. That's kind of just like the building block, basically. That's what we all need. Statistics. There's a lot of stats that you're going to need to know and be familiar with in order to get, show the strength of correlation and relevancy and all that. Methods of assessments, that's mainly from our part. And there's just so many other courses that Dr. Lassen showed us recently that, they weren't there even a year ago when I just graduated. I think Candace and Barb did a really good job of highlighting the overall courses and what you can take away from it. I would like to touch on the opportunities that Dr. Lassen and Dr. Abon constantly push out. They're always emailing with job opportunities, full-time jobs, part-time jobs, internships. The board, the mentorship board, the advisory board, it's something that's quite unique. I've done a lot of networking with other students in colleges around here or grad programs around here at George Mason, at other places, and they're more research based and not so much applied like we are. So their schools don't offer the internship opportunities that Dr. Lassen here tries to pull in for his students every single year. And it's great. I was one of the lucky ones that were able to intern at Sodexo, just right across, like not that far from where the university is. And that was one of the best jumping off points to help me. Dr. Lassen also pushes out other opportunities to network with local IO, membership programs. So like PTCMW is a huge one. They have a student consulting challenge. It's fantastic. It's something that I would highly recommend you just go and give it a shot and just try it out. And then we have a connection with Jefferson County in Alabama to go over there and look at how they do their assessments. That's going to give you a small insight onto that side of IO. And I think there's a lot of value that comes from this program, both from the courses, the academics, and the applied opportunities that you're going to get from like nowhere else. Trust me.
Thank you, Tui. And I'm glad you mentioned the consulting challenge that you were involved in, because that would have been something I would have asked you about. And I think the moral of the story from what you were explaining, as well as Candace and Barb, is that there are experiential opportunities that we take a lot of time to put together and send out. We try not to over message our students with, and we try to package things up. But it's one of those things where it's all about opportunity and seizing the opportunities when they become available. even if you have to stretch yourself, even if you have to stretch your schedule to get involved in these things. Jefferson County going down to Alabama for a week may not be the most convenient, but they certainly pay all your expenses, and it's a great experiential opportunity. The advisory board, internships, there are really so many opportunities that go beyond the classroom. And I would say that I probably spend almost as much time in collecting those opportunities, making those opportunities available, working with the advisory board. I spend probably as much time on that as I do in the classroom, because it's really part of a holistic developmental track for our students. The classes are great and informative, as you just saw. I take a little pride in the job analysis course because I was mentioned by all 3 students, and I've been teaching that. It's one of my favorite courses that I teach in the summer. And that's another example of just an opportunity. It may not be an experiential opportunity, but it's an applied course where there will be an experience part of it. But there are definitely opportunities outside of the classroom, and I'm very glad that our students have taken advantage of it. And that's really one thing that I emphasize during orientation. Seize the opportunities when they become available. I see now the time is about 6:45, and I would like to open up the floor for questions. Certainly, if you have any questions for me, if you have any questions for any of our 3 alumni who are on the call right now, Karina, I guess we could just open it up and allow people to unmute themselves and ask away. I think this is the last slide. Do we have another slide? Maybe let's go through the last couple slides, actually. Okay, so yeah, this is some important. I shouldn't overlook these slides. I know Karina would probably kill me if I did. We have certain schedules, and we are going to begin our application season starting November. And really, it's an opportunity. If you go to our website, to you have to see what you need to furnish as part of the application. Obviously, there's an application. We have ratings and letters of recommendation. We do not require GREs. So that's one thing, maybe good news for some of you that are concerned with that. So there's no GRE requirement. We do ask for a goal statement that kind of lets us know what you're trying to leverage our degree to do. But you can see all of that on the materials that Karina will make available to you, or it's certainly up on our website. And we will review applications. We try to review and make decisions rather quickly. Some applicants will apply at the beginning of the application season, but it ends on May 15th. So some of our students, they'll apply in the spring. But that's sort of our schedule. And like I said, we really try to push out decisions relatively quickly so that our applicants know where they stand. I think that level of transparency and feedback is really important. Okay. Next slide. Okay, this is really just the contact information at the very bottom. You'll see our website, very simple, umbc.edu/io. Your contact points, I mentioned my colleague, Dr. Abad. Her email address is there. My email address is there. And the email address of our administrative team is sgprofessionalprograms@umbc.edu. And any questions that really relate to tuition, financial aspects, any of those questions would be best directed to our administrative team. I think that's the last slide, Karina, right? Okay, now we're taking questions. And you'll see a little promo code at the bottom. If you submit an application, if you start an application. So I see that there is a question in the chat, which I guess I'll address. For recommendation letters, where should they be sent? Also, is there a way to keep track of possible scholarships? Again, thanks a lot. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the letters of recommendation are sort of part of the application. So once you start the application, which in contrast to when Candace, Tui, and Barb applied, this is a fully online application that is automated, and the recommendation letters that setting all that up is done within the application. So obviously you need to know the person's name and their email address, and you want to let them know that you'll be asking them for a recommendation letter. And there's also a rating that applies to that. But that is all embedded in the application. So that should answer that question. Possible scholarships. So that's the one thing that we don't really have that much of. We have a limited number of assistantships that are available. Because we are an applied program, we don't have research assistantships or teaching assistantships like PhD programs do. However, whether it's Karina, Sonia Crosby, or me, we will try to push out opportunities for graduate assistantships that are within UMBC or within universities at Shady Grove that will have similar types of financial setup to what we have is within our program a really limited number of assistantships, but we try to make whatever's available, whatever we know about, we try to make that available to applicants. Thank you. Any questions? Anybody want to unmute yourself?
Hi, I have a question. So I was just curious for the program in general and for, I guess, the alumni. Like, did you go? I know Candace mentioned that she was already working, but did anybody go in from like straight from undergrad, or did you decide to take on the degree once you were already in the workforce?
I entered this program straight after finishing my undergrad, and then I started working at NIH while in the program. So then finished it while working, in that. So, but definitely started from undergrad.
Yeah, to answer your question, we do get, I guess, a combination of people that are already working. We've had people that are really mid-career and are looking to make a change. So they obviously have had experience. We do ask for a kind of a resume or work history. We have a form that you can kind of fill in if you don't have a resume. That really gives us a sense of what you've done. What we try to do is incorporate people's job experiences into the classroom, and that's very much an important part of the learning experience when students will share what they have done at work. But occasionally, maybe a little bit more than occasionally, we will get people coming straight out of undergrad. But certainly, if you have any work experience, we want to know about that. We want to know about that as part of the application and goal statement. We really want to see the bridge between one's background, whatever that might be, wherever that might be in their life, to a career in HR or IO psychology, and that really is the function of the goal statement. Okay.
Thank you.
Karina.
I'm popping some questions from the registration form for you.
Okay. What prerequisites must be completed prior to applying for the IO psychology program? So that's a pretty basic, straightforward question. And our website has the information, but I will just let you know now. If somebody is a psychology major, then they have satisfied the course prerequisites. If they have graduated from a university and have a psychology degree, they will pretty much without exception have had intro to psych and research methods or stats. There's no undergraduate program that would let anybody graduate without having those two courses. But if you're not a psych major, if you were not a psych major, then you would need to have the two prerequisite courses of general or intro to psych and some sort of research methods or statistics course on the resume. And part of the application, we do ask our students to kind of self-report and let us know which institution they took that course in, when they took it, and so forth. But those are the two course prerequisites. Does the applicant need to receive a certain grade in the prerequisite courses before applying to the IO Psychology program? Let me just mention another thing. If somebody has had an undergraduate course in IO, then that is also something that is helpful, especially if they got a good grade in that. That definitely shows that they know a little bit about IO Psychology from having an undergraduate course in that. But not all undergraduate IO Psychology programs will have a course in IO, so we don't count it against somebody if they don't have it, but it would be helpful. Now, what we generally look at is the overall GPA, and the overall GPA by the Graduate School of UMBC standards is 3.0 and above. Have we considered somebody with a GPA of slightly below that? Yes, we have considered it. We take a holistic approach. We will look at other aspects of their application. We'll look at their goal statement. We'll look at what their grades in psychology courses are. Sometimes if somebody took organic chemistry and didn't do well, or a hard science course and didn't do well, that could drive down their GPA, their overall GPA. So we will look at the holistic application, the whole application, and take a holistic approach. So that hopefully answers that question. So it's possible that somebody maybe didn't do as well in one of the prerequisite courses as they would have liked, but it's still possible that they would get into the program. Any other questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm currently finishing up my undergraduate degree. I'm in my final semester, so I'll be done with it in this. This might be a silly question, but do I have to wait to submit the application for once I graduate?
You can this is Kat. Kat, you can submit your application on November 1st. As early as that, and as Karina, sends us completed applications, lets us know that an application is complete, we will review it. You need not wait. In fact, we will review applications and give a quick decision back to you. So it's not like we only review applications starting January 1st or February 1st and keep you waiting. No, if you have a completed application with all of the components, all of the components that are required, at that point, that will trigger communication from Karina, and we will review it. We try to turn it around in a week. Sometimes, we may need to make some inquiries or whatever, but, most of the time we turn around the decision in a week. So you can apply pretty much, with that. Now, in November, we also, in that regard, look at unofficial transcripts. So if you don't have an official transcript at that time of application, as long as it's a reputable format, even if it doesn't have a stamp of the university, we're really looking for the coursework grades and GPA on the application. So it need not be an absolutely official one.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, I see there's another. See, we're kind of running down to the wire here. So Shirin asks, with technical background and working in different technical environments for about 4 years, I see myself a technical leader, and I'm planning to get into more leadership positions. Can I benefit from the program? Well, I would say if you're looking, certainly if you're looking to pivot into talent or HR management, you'd be able to benefit from the program. But to be honest, we're not just grooming CEOs. It's some of our graduates might eventually become CEOs, but the course of study is very much IO Psychology and HR. And if you feel that some of the skills, and I would encourage you to take a look at the course descriptions, not just the course titles. If you feel that the skills that you could glean from that, from that course of study would benefit you in your organization, certainly if you were to sit down with me and ask me for the courses that you would take, obviously I would give you the required courses like IO and stats, but maybe I would say leadership, talent and leadership development would be a course that you would take. Maybe strategic planning would be another course, or change management would be another course. So I would be able to give you kind of a customized curriculum that I think would help. But ultimately, in making a decision whether to apply or not, I would encourage you to take a look at the course descriptions on our website. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, Dr. Lassen, and as well as also all the alumni here. My question was more so pertaining to the talent acquisition side. Currently, I'm working as a corporate recruiter, so I'm really into, again, talent acquisition, recruiting, matchmaking. Would the program really be able to help, develop and enhance the skills that I've already acquired? Or again, is it better if you're trying to get more into the I versus the O versus, maybe HR side of things?
So I'll answer the question. I don't know if any of the alumni want to follow up after I say what I have to say. I have worked in the talent acquisition space prior to this position at UMBC. I've been with UMBC since the beginning of the program as an adjunct, but I've been GPD since fall of 2016. But I've been in the talent acquisition and recruiting and headhunting space. So I know, pretty intimately what that's all about. And I would say that there are going to be skills that you would get from the program that would professionalize what you do. Not that what you do is not professional. I don't really know your background, but what I would say is if you're thinking about recruiting and talent acquisition, there are going to be some, I would say, empirically informed strategies of developing measurements or tests or structured interviews that would kind of be the second step or the third step. Corporate recruiters are often sort of the initial first step. They're really just doing some screening to find out if the applicant is in the ballpark or not, whether to move that person from applicant to candidate, level of the pipeline. But deeper into the pipeline is where, let's say, a course in methods of assessment would really be helpful, or principles of HR management in understanding the staffing process, or the legal course that we have, understanding what the legal ramifications of doing things the wrong way might be. So I would say that our course of study could very much inform and professionalize somebody who's working in talent acquisition. And I would say that we've had a number of students, a significant number of students, who have been working in recruiting or talent acquisition. And certainly, if you have an interest in being connected with one of them, I'm happy to contact me offline, and I can connect you with one or two students to ask specifically about their experience and how they've leveraged our program in that regard. And if Tui, Barb, or Candace, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just echo everything Dr. Lassen said. One thing I would probably add is to Dr. Lassen's point, you can always learn something new. So I came into the program and I had a lot of experience in like strategic planning and more on the organizational behavior side of HR or IO. But I always learned something new, whether it was a new theory or a new method. And it also made me one, more professional, as Dr. Lassen said, but it also made me think outside the box, which made me more successful in my current job.
Thank you, Candace. Okay, any other questions before we wrap up? All right, for those of you who are still on the call, definitely, if you have additional questions, the information, contact information was shared with you before. You have Karina's email address by virtue of being on this call this evening. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to connect you with alumni. We have many alumni who've agreed to be contacted by applicants to our program, as well as supporting our current students. So certainly if you have any specific requests to be connected with somebody who works in government or consulting or talent acquisition, recruiting, what have you, we're certainly happy to connect you with alumni who were in those spaces. So thank you very much. And thank you for Karina and Francine for all of your support behind the scenes to make this a really flawless experience. And I look forward to maybe reviewing some of your applications in the near future. Thank you. Okay.